to this week's episode of Making the Call. We did take last week off, so this is a bit of a hiatus for us, but we're back this week to break down all the action from NFL Week 10 and just all the other big storylines going on throughout the NFL, as well as just the overall sports world. We didn't have a podcast last week. I know typically we do one podcast a week, and for a little while now, we made the change from Monday night to Tuesday night. But just with all the uncertainty that was going on in the country last Tuesday, there was a lot of things we didn't know how they were going to shake out. And from a preparation standpoint, it was hard to kind of put a podcast together. And so we decided to take last week off, wait for the NFL trade deadline to actually happen so we could have all the moves finalized, and then we could discuss it after the fact. So that's why we didn't have the podcast last Tuesday. That's the only big uncertainty that was going on last week that we wanted to, kind of wait and see how it played out. But so we will talk about some trades as well as just some other NFL stuff this week. And then one of the things I want to do is I want to just kind of revisit some of our picks and bets and everything from the preseason and see how we're doing so far, basically. See how those bets are looking, and we'll revisit some of them. Some of them are looking really good. Some of them, have been big swings and misses, but we'll get into all of that. I want to start with my one big headline, and it is, I'm going to title it Organizational Ineptitude. And you might be thinking, oh, okay, what's Andrew going on about this time about the Cowboys? Well, I'll tie it into the Cowboys, but it's actually the front end of this is actually not Dallas Cowboys related, but it kind of is, because there was quite a blunder, and you can't really blame the head honcho or CEO or whatever owner, founder, whatever, of a big corporation, big organization for something like this, right? But at the end of the day, the buck does stop with the leader. It's up to them to hire the right people, to have the right checks in place and things like that. You'll see why this connects to the Cowboys. But Fanatics, who they now, manufacture the Major League Baseball jerseys. They do the NHL jerseys. I don't think they do NFL or NBA. I know for sure NBA is still Nike, but and they license all the apparel, hats, shirts, whatever, autograph stuff on their website for all the sports, all the, college, everything. And one of the biggest criticisms about Fanatics, and you saw this kind of front and center with whenever they started being in charge of the jerseys for MLB, was quality control. They have very poor quality control. It is, trying to make everything as quickly and as cheaply as possible, which you would think for the actual uniforms of the professional athletes, you would maybe make sure that everything is made with a very high quality and is made correctly. But as we saw in baseball, that was not the case. Well, the latest example is Fanatics is selling a T-shirt to celebrate the World Series champion 2024 Los Angeles Dodgers, right? And here, I'm actually going to pull up this picture here. Let's see. Okay, so go over to Spotify if you're not already, or if you're tuning in live on the YouTube, or you can even go back and watch it on YouTube. So you can get the visual here. But let me see if I can throw this up. Let's see here. Here we go. Okay. So this is the jersey, or this is the shirt that they're selling. And if you notice here, some of these signatures. So it's a T-shirt that has a signature of all the players on the world champion LA Dodgers. But then you start to look at it and be like, well, no, okay, that's Austin Hedges, John Gray, Cody Bradford, Aroldis Chapman. Wait just a second. It's the 2023 Texas Rangers. They have the 2023 Texas Rangers signatures on the back of the 2024 Dodgers World Series champion T-shirt. I I cannot believe this. I can't believe this. But it is very real. And again, Michael Rubin, he's the CEO, founder of Fanatics. He's not the one signing off on this shirt before it goes into production, but he hired, through extension, the people who do. And at the end of the day, it all goes back to the head honcho. And that brings us to the Cowboys. I told you I was going to tie this into the Cowboys. You've probably already seen this. If you haven't, here you go. This past, Monday was Veterans Day all throughout the NFL this week. Teams were honoring veterans in a number of different ways. The Cowboys put up on their screen honoring, a World War II veteran by the name of Tom Landry, who, was historic coach for the Cowboys, won some Super Bowls with the Cowboys, and has a statue. Just one of the most important figures in Dallas Cowboys franchise history. They spelled his name Tom Laundry, Laundry. And again, Jerry Jones is not the one making this graphic. He's not the one signing off on it. But it speaks to a larger thing of cultural ineptitude, where you are feeling kind of the ripples of that in every facet, whether it's putting Tom Laundry on the Jumbotron, whether it's having CeeDee Lamb be blinded by the sun in your own stadium when you have curtains that you put up for other events, but you refuse to put them up for your football games. It's trading a 4th-round pick for Jonathan Mingo, who is considered literally one of the very worst wide receivers in the NFL because you liked him 2 years ago in the draft. I made this point to Trent the other day. We were texting about it because Jonathan Mingo was a 2nd-round pick, and he was basically like, well, maybe they see something in him. There was a reason why he got drafted that high, and that was only a couple years ago. And I said to him, well, imagine if someone traded a 4th-round pick 2 years into Laquan Treadwell's career because they liked him coming out of the draft, coming out of Ole Miss. Laquan Treadwell, if you don't remember, 1st-round draft pick by the Vikings, was one of like the all-time busts at wide receiver. You putting that much stock into what you thought about someone 2 years ago when they were a draft prospect is poor organizational behavior, but it's definitely something Jerry Jones wanted, right? The list goes on. And I'm going to give, can I find it? I don't know if I can find it, but someone had put together a really good kind of laundry list of just some of the more recent blunders of Jerry Jones. Here it is. Yeah. So this is from, Stargazer Sports Media on Twitter. It says, I cannot believe that the Dallas Cowboys front office really said we are going to, 1, let 9 of our players that were starters and second-team backups go in free agency, sign only 1 free agent of substance in Eric Kendricks, and really he only came here because Zimmer begged him and lured him from San Francisco, refused to call Derrick Henry, refused to sign back Tony Pollard or Aaron Jones like Mike McCarthy wanted, keep CeeDee Lamb out of training camp due to contract disputes, draft for the future 2 years in a row for budgets instead of getting your offense weapons, sign late free agents from the bargain bin, have our entire coaching staff on 1-year deals, pay our all-pro franchise quarterback the day the season started for clicks and views, trade for a prospect wide receiver instead of someone who can get on the field now, and then they say that they're shocked by the results. Our team is ran by an 80-year-old legend that, maybe not legend. Team is ran by an 80-year-old that unfortunately has lost it and now speaks in riddles and loves attention more than winning. Hashtag fire the GM, Jerry. It's ineptitude. That was just the list of examples in the last calendar year. You could go much further. And I probably sound like I'm, beating a dead horse here, but it's not going to get better. Like Cowboys, Jerry Jones, he's going to fire Mike McCarthy this offseason. He'll probably bring in Bill Belichick. It's not going to get better. It won't get better because the Cowboys have a culture problem that is set by the owner. And you can't correct that as long as he's still there and he's setting the culture. Perfect example. Look at what Jim Harbaugh has done with the Chargers. They had a culture problem of being a injury-ridden team, of being poor tacklers, never playing up to their expectations. I mean, look at some of those Chargers teams of the last 4 or 5 years, and you'd always look at them in the preseason and be like, man, they have so much talent. Like, this team is going to win 10, 11 games, and they always fell short of their expectations. Now you look at the Chargers, where they let some old guys go, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. They drafted some guys, but all in all, it's a lot of the same guys from last year. I know I mentioned Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. They let, Austin Eckler go. They bring in J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, but it's a lot of the same pieces, but they just brought in Harbaugh, who just completely changes the culture. And now this team is 6-3 and is in prime position to, get a wild card spot in the playoffs. That's the impact that comes from just starting from square one as far as your culture goes. But I'm afraid for the Cowboys that they could bring in McCarthy, bring in Vrabel, bring in Ben Johnson, whoever you want, put whoever you want on that wish list. They're not going to change the culture because Jerry Jones is there. And I wish I could tell Cowboys fans, hey, this is how it's going to get better, but it's just not. And I wish I could tell, sports fans who go and order from Fanatics, like, hey, this is how it gets better, but you have Michael Rubin there and he's got a really bad track record. So as long as he's there, I don't see it getting better. So that's how those two are related. All right. Quick check-in on our weekly bet contest that we've been doing to remind everyone. So whoever comes in last place in this contest will have to wear a wig of the rest of our choosing on the podcast. I think we said for 10 episodes, however long that takes, 10 episodes. So Alex and Trent were the only ones who hit their bets this week. Alex is now in sole possession of first place at 6-4. Myself, Trent, and Rosie are all 5-5, and Austin is 4-6. So it is still very close. It's very tight. There's a lot of parity, which is what you kind of see across the NFL too. So it definitely mirrors that. But that's how the picks contest is going. We did this a few weeks ago, but I want to check in on our preseason bets. We each had our best bets for each of the division preview podcasts. And so I just want to kind of run through those. To remind you, we've got one that has already hit. Alex had the Chiefs to be the last undefeated team in the NFL at 8-1. So that one is cashed. So hopefully everyone took advantage of that. One that hasn't officially cashed, but I'm going to just go ahead and say it's likely going to cash is I had for the NFC East. My favorite bet was the Cowboys to miss the playoffs. And that was at plus 170. Definitely is trending that way. I know that Dak Prescott's now out for the year after having that season-ending surgery on his hamstring. So we can go ahead and, for the purpose of this, go ahead and call that. A few that, so one has already missed, and that was, actually, sorry. We've had two that have already missed. Alex had the Ravens to score a field goal in every regular season game. That was 14-1, so it was a long shot, but we didn't expect Justin Tucker to just turn into a pumpkin. And then Austin had the Chiefs to score 1+ passing touchdown in every game. And I believe they've had 2 games so far. 2 of their last 3 games, I think they haven't scored a passing touchdown. And that was 4-1 odds. 2 more that I think we can go ahead and call. Alex had Jags over 8.5 wins. They would have to win their remaining 7 games, I believe. They would have to win out for them to get to 9 wins. Yeah, because they're 2-8 right now. So they would have to go 7-0 down the stretch. So I feel good about going ahead and calling that one. And then the other one is I had Anthony Richardson at 25+ passing touchdowns and 10+ rushing touchdowns. He's at 4-1 so far this season. He's been benched. I don't think he's getting there. So we can go ahead and call that one. And that was, so the Jags over 8.5 wins, that was even money. The Anthony Richardson one was 9-1. But because we already have the one that's hit, that was 8-1 for the Chiefs to be undefeated. And if you consider Dallas missing the playoffs to cash, we're in plus money already. A few that aren't looking good. Trent had the Bengals to be a 1 seed in the AFC at 6-1 odds. I don't see them getting to the 1 seed, especially with the Chiefs still being undefeated. You've got the Chiefs at 9-0, the Bills 8-2, and the Bengals are 4-6. So I don't really see that one hitting. And then Rosie had the Steelers under 7.5 wins. The Steelers are already 7-2, so they would have to lose out, basically the inverse of Jacksonville. They would have to lose all of the rest of their games in order for that to hit. That was at plus 135. And then the one that I think is definitely trending in the wrong direction is I had DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Keenan Allen, and Cole Kmet, each with 5+ receiving touchdowns. And that one is also not looking good. The Bears, as of Tuesday morning, they fired offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. So that's definitely good news for that bet and for just that offense as a whole. But you look at it, it's not completely done. There's still a chance, but you look at it, DJ Moore has 3 touchdowns. Cole Kmet has 3 touchdowns. Keenan Allen has 2, and Roma Dunze has 1. So we would need to see a strong finish for Rome as well as the other guys. But you're asking for, what was that, 3-3, 2-1. So you're at 9. And so Caleb Williams needs 11 passing touchdowns down the stretch, going to those 4 players in order for that to hit. So I don't like our chances there, but we'll continue to update you kind of throughout this season, see how these do. What I'm really interested is whenever it's all said and done, if we would have just bet $10 on each of our bets, are we plus money? That's what we're trying to get to. So, and I there's some that I think, they're on the edge and they could kind of go either way. For example, Austin has top 2 division order for the NFC East being Philly 1, Washington 2. It's currently what it is. That was at 7-1 odds, so that could be a big hit there. So there are some ones where we can make some real money here. So we'll see how those shake out. All right, finally, Tuesday night. Let me actually go and see if it is released. The new college football rankings. Let's see if those are out. Okay, they haven't been released yet. So we're going to tune back in. We'll hit that kind of at the end of the show. All right. I want to talk about some of the head coach openings in the NFL. We've got 2 we already know about, New Orleans and the New York Jets. And then other potential openings, and this is all kind of talking about at the end of the year. Jacksonville, I think you can count on Doug Peterson getting fired. Las Vegas, I think, is a real potential with Antonio Pierce. Chicago, go ahead and write that in pencil. Matt Eberflus, I think, is getting canned at the end of the season. Dallas, Mike McCarthy, for sure. The only one that I think is potentially on the bubble is maybe Daboll with the Giants, but I think they're going to give Daboll 1 more year. They're going to move on from Daniel Jones. Man, it's a shame I don't have some of the Daniel Jones believers on this podcast, because I'm just curious if they're still holding any stock, or if the stock has basically gone down to 0. So no sense in continuing to hold it, but it feels good. It feels good to be right about something. I'm not right about a lot of things, but I held strong on the disbelief in Daniel Jones as an NFL starter, and those tickets just look better and better each and every day, each and every week that he gets to play on an NFL field. I feel better and better about that take. But I think, bringing it back to the Giants, I think they're going to give Daboll 1 more year at a chance to maybe go and draft a quarterback, because they're right now in pole position to try and get that number 1 overall pick. But let's remove them. If you look at some of the other teams, New England's not going to move on from Mayo after 1 year. Cincinnati's not going to move on. I know they've had a disappointing year, but I still think it's a good team. It's just their defense is really, really bad. I think that's what it comes down to. But I don't think they're gonna make a change at head coach. You look at some of the other teams. I think McDaniel is safe in Miami. I think Callahan is safe in Tennessee, or is he in Carolina? He's in either Carolina or Tennessee. I get those two head coaches confused. But let's focus on the ones that we've identified. So New Orleans and the Jets are already open. And then I think you can go ahead and add in Jacksonville, Las Vegas, Chicago, and Dallas. So that's 6 head coach openings. Which ones do you think are like the best coaching destinations for next year? And this is considering everything. This is considering roster, it's considering quarterback, general manager, owner, infrastructure, everything. I think for me, I think it's tough. I would probably still say Chicago just because of how high I was on Caleb Williams coming out. And I think this is a team where they've got a lot of talent. They just have a huge coaching deficiency. And if I'm them, I would throw as much money as possible at getting Ben Johnson and letting him fix this offense and really unlock Caleb Williams, because I think he can do that because he's one of the best play callers in the NFL right now. Then hire someone to run the defense. And I mean, I think Eberflus has done a good job with the defense. It's just the fact that the offense is disgusting. And I think you need to bring in a really good offensive play caller to be the head coach. I think you need to invest in the offensive line. And then let's go. Let's party. I would say Chicago over Dallas. And you might look at Dallas and be like, hey, you've got a sure thing in Dak. You got CeeDee Lamb. You got Micah Parsons. Like you've got players. But again, I'm looking at the full picture, and whoever gets that head coaching job in Chicago is going to be given full agency to do what they see fit. That's not the case in Dallas. Dallas, you got to deal with your owner, who's also the general manager, talking to the media after every game, doing 2 radio shows a week, and just undercutting and undermining you at every step of the way. So Dallas, I would say, is probably, I don't know. Is Dallas the 4th best head coach opening? Because I think it's Chicago. And I think the Jets is shaky because the Jets have players, but they have an Aaron Rodgers problem. And I think I think they need to move on from the Rodgers situation, and they need to get another solution at quarterback. Like, okay, perfect example or hypothetical here. If the Jets had Baker Mayfield, what's their ceiling? They're certainly better than 3-7, right? I would say they're certainly above 500. Are they able to crack into that top 3 of Kansas City, Baltimore, and Buffalo? I don't know. Could they have a few breaks hit their way in the divisional round and still get to an AFC championship game? I kind of think so. I do. I think you put Baker Mayfield on the Jets, and he's not going to the Jets. Like, he's happy in Tampa. Tampa's happy with him. But he would, like, that's the kind of quarterback, like, it sounds weird to say this because Aaron Rodgers is a million years old, but they need an adult in the room at quarterback. And Rodgers isn't that. He's a child. He passes the blame on everyone else. He doesn't take accountability, and he hasn't been good. Like he has not been good. He's not physically what he was. He's scared to take a hit. He doesn't throw past the sticks, and he's a walking just drama factory. And so I think if you didn't have Rodgers, I think the Jets would probably be number 2 on the list. I think for the sake of this, I'd probably say Jacksonville and then the Jets. And then I think it's a toss-up between either Vegas and Dallas. Probably Dallas, then Vegas, and then New Orleans has got to be last because their cap situation is just disgusting. And there's no way for them to get out of it. They basically need to take their licks for these next 2 or 3 years, and then they can try to kind of come out of the grave of salary cap hell. So New Orleans is last, but I'd be curious. Let me know. Maybe I'll try to put a poll on this. What you think would be the most desirable head coach destinations going into next year, all things considered, right? Roster, future cap, owner, GM, everything. I think my official list, as I'm just kind of doing it on the fly here, I think Chicago's 1. I think Jacksonville's 2. Jets are 3. I'll say Dallas 4. Las Vegas 5. And New Orleans 6. That's what I'll say. All right. Some Week 10 headlines. So we talked about the Cowboys already. Talked about Chicago. I mean, the vibes are just bad there. They have to nail this next head coach. Like you basically just threw away year 1 of Caleb Williams. You can't throw away any more time. You've got to nail this. I think what would be great for them would be Ben Johnson. That should be number 1. I think if they can't get Ben Johnson, I would go get Vrabel and hope that he can hire a good offensive coordinator to try to unlock Caleb Williams. And that's what you're hoping for. The Cardinals now won 4 straight. They're in first place in the NFC West. The NFC West is just try to figure that division out. Go ahead. I don't know how you do it. I mean, it is just a mess. Just a complete mess. But Bucs have lost 4 straight. They just need to get to their bye week. They got 1 more game, and then they've got a bye. And then hopefully Mike Evans comes back, and they're able to – because if you look at the Bucs, I believe they've got the weakest strength of schedule the rest of the way. So they're going to rattle off some wins here. They just have to get a little healthy. Yeah, if you look strength of schedule, the Bucs are 32nd at a 328 opponent win percentage. Chicago's 708. So they've got the toughest remaining strength of schedule. They still got to play all their division games. So Detroit twice, Minnesota twice, Green Bay twice, and they still play San Francisco. So it is – the vibes are going to continue to be bad, but at least they moved on from Shane Waldron. That should help at least a little bit. All right, let me recheck. Let me check the college football rankings, see if we've got those out now. Because what I want to do is I want to look at, if you remember, myself, Austin, and Alex, we did a draft to start the year of teams that we thought could make the college football playoffs. But the caveat was the caveat was you're going to place $10 on each of these teams based on their odds, and whoever walks away with the most money wins. So you're not just taking the favorites, you're trying to find the best value, right? So to recap, Alex had the first pick. He had Miami at plus 170. They lost to Georgia Tech this weekend. Austin had Clemson at plus 170. I had Utah plus 190. I also had I had Kansas State at plus 280. Austin had Ohio State at minus 650. This is in order of how we drafted them. Alex had Memphis at 5-1. Alex had Oregon at minus 330. Austin had Missouri at plus 180. I had Penn State at minus 145. I also had Alabama at minus 105. Austin had Texas A&M at plus 240. Alex had Oklahoma State at 7-1 and Georgia at 6-1. Or I'm sorry, 7-1, and then Georgia at minus 600. And then Austin had LSU at 120 plus 125, and I had Liberty at plus 440. Okay, took a little break in real time, but you didn't even notice on the podcast. We've got the brand new college football playoff rankings and then also the projected playoff bracket. So the rankings from the college football playoff committee, I'll just go in order. They have Oregon 1, Ohio State 2, Texas 3, Penn State 4, Indiana 5, BYU 6, Tennessee 7, Notre Dame 8, Miami 9, Alabama 10, Ole Miss 11, Georgia 12, Boise State 13, and SMU 14. Now, what that means for the playoff bracket is Boise State would make it because they'd be the highest ranked non-power 4 conference winner. Georgia, even though they're ranked 12th, would actually be out of the playoffs. And so you would have Boise as a 12 seed. You would have Oregon, Texas, BYU, and Miami be the 4 first round buys as the 4 highest or as the 4 conference champions. And then you would have Boise State against Ohio State, Notre Dame versus Tennessee, Ole Miss versus Penn State, and Alabama versus Indiana. So if we look at that and compare it to what we drafted, what Alex, Austin, and I drafted back before the college football season. Here are the ones that, based on who we drafted, that would currently be in the playoff, according to the committee. So Alex would have Miami and Georgia. Miami at plus 170, Georgia at minus 600. Austin would have Ohio State at minus 650. Oh, I'm sorry. Alex would also have Oregon at minus 330. Austin would have Ohio State at minus 650, and that's it. And then I would have Penn State at minus 145 and Alabama at minus 105. I think the big misses: Liberty, LSU, Oklahoma State, Missouri, Memphis, Kansas State, definitely Utah. And then ones that I think still have a shot would be Austin had Clemson at plus 170, as well as Texas A&M at plus 240. So that's how that looks. All right. Let's go ahead and wrap the podcast. That's all I've got for y'all this week. We will wrap it with the dad joke of the week. All right, here it is. Every night for bedtime stories, my son insists I read the label on a can of WD-40. He's really into non-friction. All right, that is it for this week's episode of Making the Call. We will be back next week breaking down all the action from week 11 of the NFL season. We might even talk a little Mavs, check in on if Trent's on. Maybe we can even get a quick little Stars minute to see how things are going with the Stars season. And then if anything crazy happens in the college football world, we will also get into that. So I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of the week, and we will see you next time.